You only need to know me. I will be the one.
I'm convinced the only thing more exciting than waiting for the next One Piece chapter to drop is waiting for the reveal of a new gear or ability. Related to that, in this video we'll be looking over all of Luffy's past fights, or at least most of them, the important ones that is, to consider how Luffy won each of his fights and what it hints at in terms of consistency from Oda, his writing style and Luffy's fighting style to determine Kaido's own weaknesses, how his overwhelming power can be combated, how he, Kaido, the strongest pirate in One Piece, will eventually fall. And as usual, maybe some if not all of these ideas will come to pass. But before we continue, listen closely. I want to tell you about a game I recently started playing, a legendary game. In fact, it should probably be the only mobile game around, because once you play it, you'll never need another mobile game again. The name of this game, the only one of its kind, is Raid: Shadow Legends. Use my QR code or links below to download Raid yourself to your mobile phone or PC. Now let's talk about one of my personal favorite bosses, Sir Galaroth, Guardian of the Arcane Keep. This guy is tasked with protecting arcane knowledge so only the worthy can use it. Kind of like the theory of Shanks being a guardian of the final island in the One Piece until someone worthy arrives. Galaroth guards arcane potions, and to get your hands on them, you have to defeat him. While tricky at first, he's one of the more straightforward boss battles in Raid. It seems easy, but it's complicated by the boss's left minion, which will strip all your team's buffs every time it gets a turn, so you gotta be on your toes. Raid is truly a game demanding skill, but still casual and very enjoyable. What I love about the game is its incredible graphics, art, the visuals, the design of the characters, the world building, the amount of immersion you will experience that I experienced is a feeling that no other mobile game can compare to. On top of that, Raid has a beautiful soundtrack that really hits and makes it feel like you're not playing a game at all, but instead playing a role in a movie. This month, Raid's got a lot of stuff happening, with a fresh rotation of the Brutal Hydra boss, and a ton of events and tournaments every single day, including some special Valentine's Day events where you can get your hands on a brand new legendary champion. There's seriously never been a better time to get started. And if you use my link or scan the QR code right here, new players will get a free starter pack worth almost $30 to kickstart your game. We're talking a free champion Aina, 200k silver, 1 XP boost, 1 energy refill, and the 1 ancient shard, so you can summon an awesome champion as soon as you get in-game. You will find your rewards here in your inbox for the next 30 days only. Once you're in, you can find me in-game under the name Vinland. So come play with your boy, and if you're fast, you can join my clan. And if that's easy, just click the link in the description and I'll see you in game. I've made a lot of different gear videos, as you all know, on this channel, but I plan on dropping another 2 in the future based on some ideas I've been holding back on, as well as comments made by many of you in the past. Yes, I read your comments and eventually the spam gets to me and I have no choice but to address your ideas. But you do have a choice, the free will. The inherited will passed down the generations of subscribers to this channel. To subscribe to my channel today by first hitting the like button and then the subscribe button below. So how will Kaido fall? Well, recently we saw Big Mom fall, with many thinking this isn't the end for her, that she will return either in this arc or at the end as we move on to the next arc. Law and Kid declaring an end in climactic fashion to Big Mom's era as an emperor. Big Mom suggesting it would take more than that to kill her, but who knows if she will keep her title afterwards, even if she returns. But in chapter 1037, I believe it was, in this chapter, Luffy managed to land a devastating blow on Kaido, maybe the strongest up until this point in the fight. Kaido's eyes turn white as he coughs up blood after being kicked by Luffy, and I think this moment is a hint, after receiving several prior hints, about how Kaido will be defeated. It comes shortly after Luffy noticing Kaido was getting stronger as the fight went on. Kaido's haki may be blooming in the heat of battle, his will then, his willpower growing in size comparative to Luffy's own. The only choice Luffy has is to get stronger. That is the only way to keep up with a creature, a pirate of legend. And to do this, Luffy will need a new gear, maybe. We'll come back to all of this, but let's begin with a rehearsal or reminder of Luffy's prior fights. How he won against major obstacles in the past, prior foes that challenged him to a similar extent, also pushing him to and beyond his limits. First, I want to take a look at how Kaido's abilities, his dragon scales, the natural strength of the Oni or his ancient race of Oni are no different than ancient giants, as well as his unnaturally strong will, his advanced conqueror's haki. Kaido's abilities need to be overcome just as Luffy had to overcome the abilities of a few others. We can begin with Alabasta and Crocodile. Many have pointed out that Luffy defeated Crocodile after 3 tries. Luffy, like in other fights, even the current one with Kaido, failing over and over again but never giving up until he ultimately won. Against Crocodile, Luffy noticed that water could nullify Crocodile's devil fruit power. Having realized this secret, lacking haki at the time, Luffy would later use his blood in order to harden Crocodile's sand, this allowing Luffy to hit him, eventually dealing a final blow. A series of final blows. Next, we take a look at Skypiea, Luffy versus Anaela God, the kami of that land. Just like Kaido is considered a god, a dragon deity, no one could harm Anael because he was made of lightning. This is one reason why many thought of him as a god. And just like the so-called dragon deity, Kaido was thought to be invincible and able to die until now. Like Crocodile, Anael's devil fruit power had to be overcome. Luffy had to show that this god was no god at all, just a man with a shockingly self-inflated ego. A false belief in his own supremacy or superiority that was soon shot down by Luffy's own. Luffy being made of rubber, the natural enemy of lightning. Rubber insulating and protecting Luffy from Anael's electricity. Moving on, there is the Water 7 or Enies Lobby fight between Rob Lucci and Luffy. Lucci, as a member of Cypher Pole, CP9 and now CP0 and a user of Rokushiki, had described himself in chapter 348 as having power far beyond an ordinary human. He said, "Those of us in CP9 have been training for as long as we can remember. We honed our skills to serve the government and overcome the limits of the human body, thereafter gaining superhuman fighting skills." Luffy himself is superhuman due to eating his Gomu Gomu no Mi and the training or battles he's endured up until this point in the story, from childhood to a young man. Even the Monkey D family's bloodline seems special. But Luffy in base, as a mere rubber human, was not enough to overcome the superhuman combination of Rob Lucci's superhuman Rokushiki martial arts, with a carnivorous Zoan devil fruit attached to it. A power described in chapter 349 as far more ferocious than the other Zoan types. The ability to strengthen your own physical abilities so that the more you train as a Zoan, the more your power is amplified. Compared to Paramecia and Logia, Zoans then having the strongest raw power. To keep up with Lucci, Luffy had to go even further beyond, and he did this by mimicking the Rokushiki abilities for Gear 2nd so that he became even faster, as well as somewhat stronger, you could say. At least his enhanced speed allowed him to do even more damage against Bluno and Lucci. And this damage was amplified with Gear 3rd as Luffy was able to send Lucci flying with the massive strength and arm of a giant. But more importantly, the fight only reached its conclusion after the stirring of Luffy's unique will, perhaps one of, if not the first, display of his conquering spirit, that a man on the brink of death or defeat was able to rise again from the mere encouragement of his friends, drawing strength from within, the mysterious well of his soul. We see this willpower, an indication of haki perhaps that Blackbeard acknowledged later on in Impel Down. We see this unleashed in all its might, with Gomu Gomu no Jet Gatling to defeat Lucci once and for all, sending him flying out of the tower beyond its walls. Looking at Thriller Bark, looking past the fight with Oars and how Luffy underwent a transformation that was not his own doing, becoming Nightmare Luffy, showing both Oars and Moria why he would be their worst nightmare. The shadows having made him larger in size and stronger, a resemblance to Gear 4 being noticeable. Luffy defeated Moria by combining his gears together, and so this too was kind of another transformation as well. This combination allowed Luffy to use a move titled Gomu Gomu no Rubber Giant's Jet Shell. This was Luffy's strongest technique at the time. While he is still in Gear 2nd, Luffy goes into Gear 3rd with Bone Fusion, with a combination of Gear 2nd's high speed and Gear 3rd's air within his bones. Luffy is not just faster but stronger or more powerful at the same time. The issue with this move is Luffy used to suffer greatly from both the side effects of a Gear 2nd and Gear 3rd, putting his life at risk. But this ended up being the secret to defeating Moria, a shadow man much larger than him, a man that told him after his defeat that the Straw Hats would face the true terror of pirates, emperors like Kaido in the New World. Now let's move on to the post-time skip era. Hody Jones is like Arlong, stronger than your regular human. We see Luffy's great progress from pre-time skip to now, given how Luffy didn't actually struggle against Hody Jones when you consider Luffy was holding back Gear 4. Is it possible that Luffy is currently or has been holding back a Gear 5th as we enter the next part of Oda's story? Speaking of Gear 4, We see Luffy use this against both Doflamingo and Cracker. In Cracker's case, the overlapping element is also that his devil fruit, similar to crocodiles, was vulnerable to water. But more importantly, Cracker's powers are bolstered by his high level of armament haki coating. This, combined with his devil fruit, this durability, is comparable to Kaido's dragon scales, combined with his advanced Conqueror's haki. Luffy only ended up winning by using Cracker's own power against him with Tank Man, the stuffed diversion I think it was called, and we'll come back to this idea. But going back to Doflamingo, Luffy used Gear 4th for the first time during this fight, and as Dofi observed, it was because Luffy was too slow in Gear 3rd and not strong enough in Gear 2nd. In many ways, Gear 4th was somewhat of a combination of each, the best of both worlds. Luffy then showcasing that he can combine various enhancements of his devil fruit, aside from his rubber gears in various ways. Gear 4 gave Luffy greater speed, greater tensile strength, elasticity, and overall power, the ingredients necessary to take Doflamingo down. It's worth adding Luffy's memory of Rayleigh, how Rayleigh had mentioned Luffy's special Gear 4th Kong Gun attack, and how it didn't work against the beast Luffy was fighting on that island. To which Luffy responded he came across an even bigger, stronger one, and the move just didn't work. Rayleigh then says in that case, Luffy better think of a different method, because the problem with Gear 4 is it uses too much haki, and places too much strain on Luffy's body. But Luffy being Luffy takes his own path, he doubles down, blowing even more air into Gear 4 against Doflamingo for a move called King Kong Gun, which is interesting because his arm once again inflates to the size of giants, and the character King Kong that the move is named after. King Kong is a fictional giant monster, a giant gorilla. The theories of Monkey D. Luffy, one day becoming a giant within the canon storyline, and so a giant monkey. Some like Flying Panda have even likened the fight of Luffy versus Kaido to Godzilla fighting King Kong. Next is Katakuri. Just as Doflamingo had unveiled his awakening, Katakuri did the same. Just as Doflamingo and Luffy had a conqueror's clash, Katakuri and Luffy also had their wills collide. Just as Luffy used a new gear, Gear 4, against Doflamingo and unveiled a new version against Cracker with Tank Man, he did so again against Katakuri with Gear 4 Snake Man. In combination with Luffy's elevated level of observation possibly having reached an amateur level of future sight, Snake Man's speed was able to allow Luffy to keep up with a man that had mastered seeing into the future, and combined with his Mochi awakening, his donut mode, could move at high speeds like Luffy. So to defeat Katakuri, Luffy needed speed and better eyes. All of this takes us to Kaido. As mentioned, Kaido has already defeated Luffy several times. Kaido is strong, fast, and most importantly highly durable, his durability being attributed to, again, dragon scales from his devil fruit, strong haki, a strong spirit, and maybe even his Oni race or ancient giant race. Thus far, Luffy seems like he's only done some damage to Kaido, but Kaido is laughing, having fun, as he said. He acknowledges Luffy's strength, but at the same time seems like he's still playing around. Luffy pointing out Kaido's haki was getting stronger too. On top of this, Kaido's drunken fighting style, as I mentioned in the past, is like Rock Lee's drunken fist. Incredibly unpredictable, making it hard to hit Kaido even if you're fast, even if you can read the future. Everything becomes chaotic and random in terms of Kaido's approach. And so, defeating Kaido requires Luffy to address Kaido's drunken form as well as take lessons from his prior fights in the story. So to briefly revisit what we went over, Crocodile like Anael had a Logia devil fruit that was difficult to manage unless you found its weakness, the right element or strategy to counter them, and similarly, Luffy needs to find the means beyond haki to break through Kaido's devil fruit's dragon scales. Especially given Kid-in-Law's defeat of Big Mom, their fight seemed to emphasize devil fruit powers awakening more than haki. Kaido has shown himself to be ferocious like Rob Lucci even, as a dragon possibly the most ferocious carnivorous Zoan type that there is. How does Luffy overcome Kaido's enormous strength, speed, and durability? Just like he did, I think, against Doflamingo, with a new Gear 4 or maybe even Gear 5 to increase his own stats, his own abilities, to go even further beyond. I had mentioned Luffy using Cracker's own power against him with Tank Man, a stuffed version of the form. Luffy says he will show Cracker the power of a full stomach, and it might imply the stuffed version, despite much speculation, is actually the strongest version of the move, and the reason Luffy only used it once, so irregularly, is because it requires certain conditions to be used effectively or optimally, such as after eating a lot of food for a full stomach to reflect attacks back at your opponent. It is now possible, as some have theorized, that Luffy will use regular Tank Man, or just in general reflect or ricochet or recoil or whatever word you want to use, Kaido's attacks back at him. Maybe an awakening allowing Luffy's elasticity to do this in the near or distant future. We'll see. But we have already seen Luffy surpass his limits, returning from several near defeats on Onigashima with a new power. Luffy's spirit growing in size as the battle continues, just as Kaido's own spirit is. The collision of their advanced, conquering wills seems at first to be no different than what happened with Doflamingo and Katakuri, except for the fact that Luffy versus Katakuri seemed to damage the environment, whereas Luffy's clash with Kaido cracked the very sky above them. Again, the symbolism here. Luffy's will had grown so much that it is now acknowledged by the heavens, soon to be the whole world. And finally, chapter 1037, as if a callback to Luffy's fight against Moria. All the lessons Luffy has learned up until now. Luffy seemingly combined the strength of Gear 3rd with the speed of Gear 2nd, or at least transitioning quickly between forms. This is perhaps a hint at Luffy's increasing mastery of his abilities, his devil fruit and gears. All that is left is Gear 4, and for whatever reason, as Oda did not show us Luffy's full body when he came back from a watery grave, riding the dragon Momonosuke in a silhouette of his Snake Man transformation. What we do see, what is emphasized, is the strange way in which Luffy's haki is coating his Gear 4 body, as if it were spiraling, or as if Luffy had transformed into this gear by using conquerors and not just arm and haki. In all, what Oda is maybe telling us is Luffy needs the following power-ups to defeat Kaido: greater speed to keep up with Kaido's great speed, greater durability to endure Kaido's own great attacks, and greater attack power to take out Kaido for good. Zoans, after all, being able to recover easily, especially when awakened. Greater mastery of Luffy's Devil Fruit too. Maybe even an awakening for Luffy, given Luffy's last two opponents were all awakened, and so Kaido should be awakened, or have an awakening also. Especially since Law and Kid, his peers, can awaken now. Given that Zoans can recover, I just wondered if Oda would make Luffy's victory over Kaido more believable by sending him flying into the ocean. How exactly do you defeat an awakened Zoan like Kaido? Maybe the strongest awakened Zoan, when they have rapid healing factors or recovery speed. How do you defeat Kaido if he keeps on getting back up? On the other hand, Luffy used to have a time limit for Gear 4. Maybe he still does, and that's why he hasn't used it yet against Kaido after coming back to Onigashima. Maybe he still does, and that's why he hasn't used it again yet, in terms of using it for a long or sustained period of time, or maybe that is the next step. Whereas his fights with Doflamingo and Katakuri showed he still had a ways to go to perfect his haki and Devil Fruit usage. Luffy is finally at a place where maybe the time limit of Gear 4 will no longer be a factor. After all, if it relies on haki, then as your haki increases, so should the time limit. Shape-shifting between gears, an increased supply of haki then that voids the time limit of higher gears, or relying on his conquerors for a new transformation. Maybe even combining various gears together, as Morgan mentioned in one of his videos. All Gear 4th forms, or even an idea that I had thought of to add to Morge's, is Gear 2nd, 3rd, and 4th all together, all at once. Blood circulation, inflated bones, and inflated muscles. It's no coincidence that Luffy is increasingly getting used to Gear 4 just as he has Gear 3rd and Gear 2nd. It should not be a surprise then that the risk of each gear is less of a factor moving forward, and Luffy can use them in different ways with greater frequency, even at the same time. Maybe we can call this new form Gear Overdrive. Again, going above and beyond, further than he ever has before. I want to finish off the video now by considering some symbolism and how this might relate to defeating Kaido, to breaking Kaido. Yes, breaking Kaido's will is important. Crushing his dreams, since Oda says Luffy does not kill characters, but instead he crushes their dreams. What is Kaido's dream? All we know at the moment is his goal, his plan, his wish for a world of mayhem and violence. But also that Kaido has been searching for a place to die. And I was reminded of this by someone on Twitter who pointed out that just maybe Wano is special because it is the place Joy Boy would make his return to, but also that Kaido came here not just for weapons or war, but to die. To just maybe be defeated by Joy Boy, the inheritor of his will, by Monkey D. Luffy. Kaido had mentioned the world doesn't need two dragons. Kaido ate a mythical fish fruit, but it seems to be an actual dragon fruit based on Oda's reveal in an interview. I think that is the Azure Dragon Suryu. So we'll see whether Kaido started out as a fish or if he's always been a dragon. Regardless, Kaido having traveled to Wano sort of fits the legend of the koi fish that swam up the waterfall to become a dragon, proving its strength by beating the other koi fish, and in this way for Kaido, the other pirates out there at sea. I think this tale is relevant, for Luffy also defeated various pirates to reach this point in the story, and he has now climbed the same waterfall to enter Wano. In doing so, we saw him in the presence of several koi fish that were headed up the waterfall, and these koi can be thought of as being symbolic of the other pirates that failed to make it this far. And so Luffy has also become a dragon in a metaphorical sense, an emperor of the sea. So often we focus on Kaido and Momonosuke when we read this panel, that there doesn't need to be two dragons. But suppose there is another meaning, a hidden message. For in this panel, it is not actually Momonosuke squaring off against Kaido, but Luffy, the son of someone named after a dragon. And so ironically, just as Momonosuke has the lineage factors of a dragon via his artificial mythical dragon Zoan fruit that was copied from Kaido, Kaido then being an indirect parent to Momonosuke's power, a father in that way. Luffy too, via his DNA, his family line, has lineage factors from a so-called dragon, his father Monkey D. Dragon. And so the world doesn't need two dragons. After Wano, only one will be left standing. Only one can make it to the very top to become king, Kaido or Luffy. Rather than become a dragon, as I mentioned in my Luffy Becomes This Legend to surpass Kaido in the final panel of Wano video, I think the world not only does not need two dragons, but also the world does not need two Joy Boys. There can only be one. I'm sure you heard the theory on Kaido being a false Joy Boy by now, and you can check out this video and the video about Kaido's encounter with Shanks over here where I discuss these ideas. But the fight between Luffy and Kaido seems to also be a fight to determine whose vision of the world is greater. The outcome then deciding the way forward. Joy Boy is a smiling, laughing figure, and we have seen Kaido smiling many a time throughout the arc, just as Luffy has been smiling. Both are enjoying this fight. Most recently, we have seen Kaido go from smiling to laughter, a reminder of Kaido's statement to Luffy, that the more precarious, the more dangerous the situation is, the more you smile, and the wider your smile. Isn't that right? Another translation or interpretation of these words being that the more precarious the situation is, the more you laugh, and the more you laugh, or smile, the greater your joy. The more danger you are in, the more you enjoy yourself, the greater your will. Luffy's laughter overall being linked to willpower, haki. No wonder Kaido's haki was getting stronger as the battle continued. Despite all the damage he's received, despite Kaido simultaneously holding up the island of Onigashima while he fights. Kaido's mood swings also suggest emotions can influence your power then. This does seem like common sense, most shonen do this, and it holds true for using future sight, so it should for other powers. But maybe Oda is taking it to another level. From sadness, anger, and rage, to perhaps a new form of emotional power, the power of laughter. Kaido enjoying himself, smiling and laughing. Willpower, the will of D, then suggesting it might be linked to the will of a people, the inherited will of Joy Boy. Joy Boy's will or strength being unrivaled. Maybe Joy Boy then was not just a great man, not just a pirate in the distant past, not just a king of the ancient kingdom of the Void Century, but a powerful one too. And so to defeat Kaido, a dragon Zoan that refuses to stay down, someone with incredible willpower that only keeps getting stronger. What if Luffy, who is enjoying his fights, begins to laugh uncontrollably, without a care for anything, almost like a playful monkey, a laughing monkey or a god, free from all wants, desires, and concerns. Whether this happens against Kaido or down the road against Blackbeard or some other opponent in the future, maybe Imu, we'll have to wait and see, but this concept of nirvana and the Buddhist influences of inner and true peace, Sun Wukong, as I mentioned in my Luffy ate the devil fruit of a monkey god video, refers to an enlightened monkey awakened by the emptiness. That is what his name Sun Wukong means. Nirvana then means a state without desire, without love, without wish, and one without craving or thirst, one that is empty and yet full at the same time. In a way, you are lost in the moment, but found all the same. You have become. Nothing further needs to be said. Nirvana is explained as abandoning the desire which weaves together life after life. True peace, and so Luffy's smile, his laughter, the peace he has found or might find in his fight with Kaido or its aftermath. What if this is what it means to become Joy Boy? What if this is how we will know he has? Each of Luffy's victories is defined by symbolic displays of something, mainly freedom, freeing others from their oppression and therein conquering those that have sought to keep them down or lock them in. A conqueror that frees others, kind of ironic. In East Blue, the fight between Luffy and Arlong, freeing Nami, destroying the map Harum, ending Nami's slavery or servitude to him. Luffy was underground when he fought the underground or secret criminal organization Baroque Works boss Crocodile. Luffy sending Crocodile flying upwards into the air, into the sky, revealing him to all of Alabasta as the mastermind of their civil conflict, and thereafter it began to rain over the deserts of Alabasta for the first time in a long while. Versus Enel, Luffy was revealed to be his natural enemy, the natural enemy of lightning, the natural enemy of Skypia's false kami or god, just like the D are the natural enemies of the gods. And so Luffy somehow for whatever reason should be Kaido the dragon god's natural enemy too, even though we have yet to receive an answer as to why. Kaido the false joy boy, the false god. Luffy then may be the real joy boy, the real god, I guess. During and after Enel's defeat, the sun was shining, symbolic of the sun god mentioned during Skypiea, like the one mentioned during Onigashima, the sun god Nika. Luffy defeated Enel by sending him flying into the bell to ring the light of Shandora so that Mont Blanc Cricket and the others would know the legend was real. Can they hear it? The Sky Island, the legendary city of gold, does exist. At the same time, freeing Skypiea from Enel's tyranny. Doflamingo in the birdcage. Luffy, similar to Kozuki Oden's introduction in Wano, talking about how suffocating it was, being in that cage, being controlled. The people of Dressrosa, the whole world, deserves to be free as the freedom Luffy seeks for himself as Pirate King. And to think Dofi did all of this because of his contempt for so-called humans despite being human himself. It took Luffy, like he did against Enel, to humble and remind Doflamingo that he was not a god. Likewise with Katakuri and Big Mom, we saw how discrimination, prejudice can affect even a family unit. These issues go deep, to the point that Luffy in the mirror world could perhaps see himself in Katakuri, or maybe the other way around. Katakuri envying Luffy's freedom, removing his scarf, his mask, accepting defeat in the end. The two being mirrors of the other. Luffy for Katakuri, a reflection of what is possible when you accept yourself and stop running from who or what you are. That too is a form of freedom. Kaido himself telling Yamato that the humans would never love her or them because of what they were. And so a cage, closed hearts and minds, closed borders. All of these things have been and will be opened up by the end of the story. The final barrier to a freer world, maybe being the red line, the divisive mountain, that must fall maybe with the defeat of Imu. But for Wano, as Onigashima approaches the island, maybe Kaido's defeat by Luffy will be marked by the opening of Wano's borders that Kaido has sought to keep closed. The opening of hearts and minds to outsiders in the outside world. The final panel of Wano that Oda had mentioned maybe. Brought about by the victorious laughter of a joyful boy. But as usual, we will have to wait and see. Don't forget to like the video, comment with your thoughts below, share this with your friends, and subscribe. Also click that notification bell and follow me on Twitter if you want at the links below in the description box. As always, there is more to come. Until next time.